This is the 2-year chart for Dutch natural gas. And as you can see on the chart, there was a huge spike up back in February and March when Russia invaded Ukraine. But since then, the price of gas had come back down and kind of normalized until June. About a month ago, the price began to climb steadily, and now it is nearing those post-invasion highs. Hasn't quite gotten that high yet, but it's looking like this may be an extended increase in the price of natural gas in Europe. Right now, the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, that's the main pipeline that supplies Russian natural gas to Germany, is shut down for what is being called routine maintenance. However, the flow of gas through that pipeline has been diminished over the past several weeks by Russia, and there's a lot of speculation that this pipeline may not reopen anytime soon. Right now, July 22nd is the date when it is scheduled to be back up and operational, so all eyes are on that date, and we'll find out soon if Russia has completely cut off the flows of gas to Germany and Europe. Now, one of the plans that Germany has to deal with rising gas prices and rising energy prices is to reactivate some coal power plants. Now, coal, of course, it's dirty, makes a lot of CO2, so it's not quite in accord with the green energy program of the European Union, but this is a crisis, and burning some coal is going to be a lot better for Germany than having skyrocketing energy prices for a prolonged period of time. But there are some problems with this switch to coal that I haven't really heard mentioned in the mainstream media, and I would like to point those out. This is from the Eurostat website, and in this article they are answering the question, from where do we import energy? And you can see here in the second paragraph, in 2020, Russia was the primary supplier of EU crude oil, natural gas, and solid fossil fuels, aka coal. And from the numbers here, in 2020, Russia supplied 29% of the crude oil imports for Europe. It supplied 43% of the natural gas imports, and then 54% of the coal imports. So I'm not so sure that switching from one Russian supplied fossil fuel to another is going to solve the problem that Germany is experiencing. In fact, it just kind of gives Russia another lever to pull, because as far as I know, there haven't been any restrictions on coal imports from Russia, but, Russia could decide to restrict those as well, in addition to gas. And, the EU is cutting off the supply of oil from Russia on their own with their embargo. And that's not the only problem with coal. Here's an article from the Financial Post about how 2 German power plants, 2 of them that are trying to reactivate, cannot get enough coal because of the Rhine River being too low for the barges that carry coal to deliver the coal. So this is already proving to be a problematic strategy to solve the energy crisis. And, the weather is not cooperating with the German efforts to restart these coal plants. And the weather is giving them a lot of other problems. It's not just the low Rhine River. This is an article from AccuWeather about how right now Europe is going through the most brutal heat wave since 1757, with record temperatures across Europe. Spain and southern France are the hottest at the moment, but even Germany and the UK are experiencing unseasonably hot weather. And that, of course, is a problem as these countries are trying to conserve energy. People are going to be cranking up the HVAC, and heat is a real problem. Heat waves can kill people if you don't have sufficient energy to operate your HVAC, especially the elderly and the young. Anybody who has compromised health, sitting in sweltering heat can actually give you an injury. And right now, these countries are all trying to conserve energy. In France, this is an article from oilprice.com, President Macron calling for public lights to be turned off, and that means public street lights are going to be turned off at night. So, those images you see of North Korea and South Korea from space, and the south is all lit up and the north is all dark. Well, that's what Europe is going to look like now as a result of this energy crisis. And so, the lifestyles of your average European citizen are being compromised in a lot of ways. I mean, you don't get streetlights anymore. You don't get HVAC as much. You're not going to be able to heat your apartment or your home as much when winter comes. The weather is not going to cease to be a problem later this year because we're getting a record hot summer now. Maybe we'll get a record cold winter, and that could prove to be absolutely disastrous because the supplies of gas are already dwindling. By the time we get to the end of the year, they're going to be out of their reserves, despite all of these efforts to store extra reserves. And as a result of this energy crisis, there are officials at German utility companies calling for energy price caps to avoid social unrest. And in this interview with Reuters, Roland Warner, he's the head of the municipal works of Chemnitz. That's one of 900 city-owned public companies that are a major part of Germany's energy system. He said, "We must help average households and set an upper limit for energy costs." And he warned that annual bills of 1,500 euros could rise to 4,700 euros in October. If we get social unrest, the state won't be able to cope. And of course, social unrest would exacerbate all of these problems, no doubt. And the extra hot summer, that's not going to help with that. There's something about the summer. It is when people tend to get out into the streets and riot. And when it is hotter than usual, people tend to be more upset and a little crazier than usual. So this is sort of a perfect storm that is going to be eroding the social fabric of Europe. And this is not coming at a great time. This is coming as the world is facing a number of crises. This is a time when we really need unity in the West, and I think we're going to get the opposite, unfortunately. And there's already quite a bit of social unrest around the world. We're going to get into that in just a moment. But first, I do want to say a big thank you to today's video sponsor, silverbotanicals.com. You can head over there with the link in the description, and you can use coupon code STACKER to save 10% off your order. And Dean over at Silver Botanicals has offered an even better promotion for viewers of this channel for the month of July. If you go over to Silver Botanicals and you use coupon code STACKER, you'll save 10% off your order. And if you buy $50 worth of product or more, you'll also be receiving a free Brilliant Uncirculated Roosevelt dime, the 90% silver kind, with your order. And these are not just any Brilliant Uncirculated dimes. There's something very special about these. And I'll be putting out a video with details about that promotion and about why these silver dimes are so cool in the very near future, so stay tuned for that. But back to the subject of social unrest. Sri Lanka, they just had the president resign after a mob of protesters overtook the presidential palace. He resigned via an email, I think, after fleeing the country. And now the central bank there, the head of the central bank, is warning that the country could completely shut down without a stable government. And so this shows you just what kind of risk the world is at in terms of civil unrest. I mean, we just had a whole government collapse in Sri Lanka, and I'm not saying that we're approaching that point in Germany or Europe just yet, but it does make you wonder, when people start getting real hot or they start getting real cold or they're forced to have no energy for periods of time when there's extreme weather especially, it's not looking pretty, and it could mean that the shizzy's going to hit the fizzy as far as riots, protests, and civil unrest this summer and also possibly this winter. And if Europe doesn't want to wind up like Sri Lanka, they are going to need to find some answer to this energy crisis. But what that answer is going to be, I'm not sure, because the conflict in Ukraine looks like it is not going to be resolving itself anytime soon. So recently we got this news that Ukraine has ruled out ceding territory to Russia to secure peace. And at the same time, what we're hearing from Russia at the same time is that Ukraine must recognize territorial reality in order to secure a peace agreement. So they are still very much at odds there. Likely what the Russians want the Ukrainians to do is to cede the territory to them that the Russians have already taken, mostly in the east there in the Donbass, those areas that are primarily Russian-speaking and pro-Russian. And Ukraine is refusing to do that. So it doesn't look like we're going to get a peace agreement there anytime soon. In fact, Ukraine is even now talking about launching a counteroffensive to reclaim Kherson, which is a major city. It was one of the first cities to fall to Russia, one of the first major population centers. And if you're wondering where Kherson is, here it is on the map of Ukraine, just north of the Russian-controlled contested area of Crimea. And so, this conflict is going to continue to get worse, and the energy crisis is going to continue to get worse. We're going to find out in about a week here if Russia is going to reopen that Nord Stream 1 pipeline. And if they don't, the situation in Europe is going to get really serious. But even if they do resume flows, there's elements of the EU oil embargo which have not kicked in yet, which are going to have some significant effects on world energy prices. The coal idea, Russia can always cut the supply of coal to Europe. And if this conflict in Ukraine escalates in a big way, if NATO gets drawn in, although it looks like they're pretty hesitant to go down that route at this point, but with the level of brinksmanship that's going on, doesn't seem like it would take much for this to expand into a wider conflict. And if that happens, look out. The shizzy's really going to hit the fizzy when that happens. And that is why I am stacking. That is why I am getting prepared. If global war and global unrest breaks out, I don't have a lot of faith in paper currencies, so I am still stacking real money, physical precious metals, and I hope that all of you are getting prepared as well. And it's not just with metals. You're going to need food, going to need some way to protect yourself should all of this go downhill rapidly, which there does seem to be a significant potential for. So, do what you can to get prepared now while times are still good. Gas and fuel, they've come down temporarily. If that helps you do any kind of preparations, take advantage of the brief drop we've seen in the price of crude oil. Price of precious metals, of course, has pulled back quite a bit over the past several days, so I think there's a good opportunity there as well. And of course, none of this is financial advice, just telling you my thoughts on the situation. But let me know yours in the comments down below. Let me know what you think, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, everybody. I will catch you next time. Smart Silver Stacker, out.